Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy GrandmastaJ. Now, because of the previous video that I did ranking every single super, I'm so sorry, Faust, I'm sorry I forgot you. There was a part of it that made me stop and think, wait a minute. What are the best supers in Guilty Gear Strive? And so today the plan is simple. We are going to answer that question, and I will be giving you my top 5 greatest supers in Guilty Gear Strive. Now, first and foremost, just to get this out of the way, there are a lot of really good supers in this game. In fact, I would say it is harder to find a super that is honestly bad than there is to find one that is good. But we're not just talking about good, we're talking about the best. And when it comes to the best supers in Guilty Gear Strive, these are supers that almost define the character. When you think of this character, and when you think of how to beat this character, you have to always take into account this specific super because it's going to come up every single round. And some of these supers, if you don't have an answer for, you will just get completely run over and feel like there is nothing you can do when fighting this character. And so with that out of the way, let me give you my list, starting with the honorable mentions. If you like content like this, please consider subscribing, turning on post notification bells on, checking your boy out at twitch.tv/GrandmastaJ, and leaving a comment in the comment section down below as to what super you would have added to this list. Now let's get into it. And so to get started on this honorable mentions list, first things first, we have Axel's One Vision super. Now what makes this super so good is that uniquely, he's one of the only characters that can actually cancel his special moves into it, right? Not a lot of characters in Guilty Gear Strive can do that. It gives him access to a lot of high damaging Axel bomber routes. And due to the nature of the super, it actually very much complements Axel's zoning playstyle, allowing him to look, hey, look, I'm not an Axel player, so I don't know the confirms, but the super does allow him to confirm certain stray hits, right? Which is what zoners really love to do, right? It allows him to convert certain stray hits into massive damage. Now, I fudged up right there, but you guys get the idea. Not only that, but even if he pops the move in neutral, right? Now, all of a sudden, you need to be very careful about approaching him because he can just all of a sudden, if you're not blocking it, we're moving and grooving in neutral and he can just, oh, you got hit for the idiot. Now you're gonna get Axel bomber looped, moron. Prepare to take all this damage, wall break, all that jazz. And now he gets positive bonus. He can run it again and you're gonna die. Now, the reason why this didn't make it to the top 5 list is mostly because it is sort of I wouldn't say a win harder super, but it kind of is in that regard. Axel himself is not necessarily a majorly high damage character, so it's not necessarily going to allow him to make comebacks. It's also a super that's tied to Axel, which himself is not really a great character going into certain matchups. He is a very strong character, but going into certain matchups, he does kind of fall, and this super does not necessarily cover his weaknesses in those matchups, but it was strong enough to make it to the honorable mentions list, so there it is. Let's move on to the next one. For the second honorable mention on our list, we actually have Faust. What could this be? He throws 4 items on the screen. And one thing I actually did not know about this character before researching this video is that if you actually do an extra quarter circle in the input, he will actually throw 10 items. I literally never do that. But the reason why this super is so strong is because it allows him to just sort of like create so much clutter on the screen because Faust in this game is able to toss items while other items are out, right? Doing this whole like toss item play style out, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden he gets a decent amount of space, or even if he's losing, hold on a sec, even if he's losing, him just being able to toss out a bunch of items so automatically like just clutter the screen with potentially a bomb or a meteorite, that immediately just brings him back into the game. The reason why it's not higher up on the list is because it is inherently RNG dependent, and Faust like has to like react to the items that are being thrown, capitalize off them. It doesn't necessarily like stop him from losing. It just sort of like helps him get back into the game. But the other thing is that Faust, he really likes to use his meter for certain things like this. And so because he's actually really good at using meter, like it makes it really hard to justify using the super as opposed to just doing some scarecrow stuff. For the next honorable mention on our list, we actually have Bedman's Call 14C, 15C, I don't know what the frick it is, but this install super enhances all of his special moves, and these special moves are absolutely egregious. I mean, just his projectile alone automatically becomes one of the best projectiles that has ever existed in the history of ever. I believe it makes it faster. It makes it guard crush. It makes it do a ton of chip damage. It makes it do a lot of damage on hit. Not to mention, when he gets certain knockdowns like this, and then he activates the super, right? You cannot actually interrupt him from calling the follow-up to the super. Before, like what happens is that whenever he uses his follow-up, if you hit him, it completely interrupts it and they don't come out. But now it's completely uninterruptible. For 5 seconds, Bedman becomes absolutely devastating. And one of the only reasons why it's not in the top 5 list is because it's only really for 5 seconds. Usually Bedman can't just necessarily throw it out in neutral unless your opponent's very low on health, or he kind of just wants to say, hey, stop, I'm gonna start shooting projectiles at you now. But ultimately, you can kind of like turtle it out, you can kind of wait it out unless he uses it smartly in a, I already hit you, now I'm gonna use it in order to win more. Like, it's not super useful. Also very similar to Faust, a lot of what Bedman likes to do is use his meter in order to go for like these guard crush loops. And so because he likes to use meter in other ways, he's not really going to see a lot of opportunity to justify using his super as opposed to just using the meter. And for our last honorable mention, we have the Goldie man himself, Goldlewis, with Burn It Down. Now, Burn It Down is a great super. I know that it does scale off security, but realistically, even without any security, it still is a phenomenal super. I mean, you're essentially creating a wall that your opponent cannot help but interact with. And so even if Goldlewis is getting his entire bloodline zoned out of the game, as long as he has 50 meter, he can always just say, well, you know, I know I'm getting my freaking nut zoned in, but you're gonna have to interact with me at least once now. Now, the thing about this super, and trust me, it almost made it to the top 5 list, but the thing that really pushed it off was the fact that once Goldlewis activates the super, right? First of all, there's a lot of startups, so he can't really do it like all the time. He especially can't do it when he's point blank in the opponent's face because they can definitely just punish him. Your opponent has an opportunity to run up, get a hit on Goldlewis, or jump over him, or even throw him and avoid the situation altogether. Now, of course, the odds are skewed in Goldlewis's favor. For example, a lot of Goldlewis players like to do this, and then they like to freaking swing their freaking Behemoth Typhoon just in case your opponent tries to run up on you. But even though the odds are in his favor, it's kind of like a 60-40 situation where like he's 60% likely to win the interaction and 40% likely not to. And even if when he manages to get you to block this move, when you're point blank in Goldlewis's face mid-screen, he's not that scary because realistically you only have to block like one of these or one of these, right? But like after that, you're kind of gone. And again, very similarly to the other two characters, Goldlewis is a character that really likes to use his meter to stay in. And so it makes it very difficult to justify the cost of using Burn It Down a good portion of the time. Especially since if he's trying to get in, right, he has other methods, right? He can do things like that, right? Or I'm trying to do the upwards one or something like that. And he can also use a security gauge to kind of offset being zoned by using the opportunity to shoot out a Gatling gun or chucking out his little ball and running behind it. There's a lot of stuff that Goldlewis can do except for Burn It Down that it makes it so that Burn It Down, even though it's a great super, it's not his number one choice most of the time. With the honorable mentions out of the way, we are now moving on to the top 5. And in this top 5, I cannot state this clearly enough. Every time you fight these characters, you have to interact with the super one way or another. And if you don't have an answer to it, or if you allow the supers to happen, you are just in a horrible, horrible spot. With that being said, let's get to number 5. For our number 5 spot on the list, we have Asuka's Bookmark Full Order. Now, this super is absolutely insane, and it has received a massive buff over the last couple of months. The thing that makes the super absolutely absurd is the fact that Asuka is able to be in any test case, right? So for example, like test case, he can start at test case 1, he can start shooting some cubes out, right? All of a sudden, he gets a meter, he shoots a cube out, he goes here, he's able to switch test cases. If like go into test case 3, get the cards that he wants from test case 3, go into test case 2, get some cards that he wants from test case 2, and then go back to test case 1, or sit at test case 2 or sit at test case 3. the world is his oyster. And Asuka is very unique in the fact that a lot of his cards combo with other cards. The problem is that it's very hard to get two of those cards at the same time, but Bookmark Full Order completely solves that problem altogether. For example, this combo right here with the freaking Accelerator Staff, the Tri-Cube, and then his teleport allows him to do unseeable 50-50s. When this staff is on screen, every cube becomes a guard crush, and this cube has enough block stun that when he teleports, your opponent is still in block stun, and due to the neat little perk of guard crush making it so that cross-up protection doesn't exist, he's able to completely bypass cross-up protection and force a mix. The problem is that you're not going to be able to get the staff and this cube in the same test case, because this staff sits in test case 1 and this staff and this cube is only accessible in test case 2 and 3, and go to marker is really only accessible in test case 3, and so usually this combo would never be seen. But now you can just freaking Bookmark Full Order, cycle through, grab what you want, cycle through the others, grab the others, and then all of a sudden you got it. You have access to it. Even simpler than that, right? Say for example, I love using test case 1, but I also love the advantage of switching to test case 3, grabbing freaking what is it called? Grabbing the mana card and the freaking, you know, bookmark, whatever the frick, and then switching back to test case 1. I just have access to some of the most broken cards in the game without actually having to commit to that whole test case. I feel like I've said test case a million times, but you guys get the idea. A lot of Asuka's game plan revolves around using it at least once, and big emphasis on at least. Most of the time, if you're really steamrolling your opponent, you're going to be doing it at least twice, sometimes 3 times. Getting the cards that you want, staying in the game, making it a one-player game, it's really, really good. It's especially made better by the fact that they made it so that you can switch test cases, which is a new buff, and they made it so that the mana required for it has reduced significantly, and it takes so much longer than what it used to. And if you're in test case 1, which you're always in test case 1, and you manage to get the mana reduction card, it reduces the mana. Look at how you're not even losing any mana when you're using this move. Even letting it run out entirely has only used up about a third, which is way better than what it used to be. Back in the day, you used to waste so much mana using this move. For those reasons, I'm putting it at number 5, and honestly, it could be number 4, but I'll let you guys decide that, because now we are going to be talking about the number 4 spot in my list. For the number 4 spot in my best supers list, I have Elphelt's Gucci belt. Now, this move is absolutely absurd. It was absolutely absurd in the previous patch, because every single time Elphelt would get you to the corner, she would just be incentivized to chuck a belt on you, right? Knock you down, and then she'd be able to do one of these. Boom. And even if you blocked that, you had the belt on you, you had to eat another mix anyway. However, for whatever reason, in this version of the game, they decided to make it way more usable mid-screen. Now it causes this knockdown effect, which he's able to OTG off of and get a fuzzy mix out of. This is the mix I've been running every single time I get it. Boom. Knock him down and then do whatever you want. Usually you can break the wall using a couple more resources or with just good positioning, but it is crazy. Now, this is one of the only supers that is kind of a win more super, which is why I don't necessarily have it higher up on the list, because even though, like, yes, the opponent can now hit Elphelt and get the belt off of them, which honestly, like, yeah, bro, like the fact that I could burst last patch and I still had the belt on me, and so I had to block the belt. Elphelt gets up and runs up and then she's plus. It was kind of crazy. But even now, Elphelt can just sit there, do absolutely fucking nothing, and then you still need to block the move. Even though you can hit her out of it, right? Elphelt can just sit there and do fucking nothing, and now you just have to sit there and not freaking explode. All of a sudden, you're blocking this move, and as soon as you block it, she can just whoop, boop, 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 run up. Now all of a sudden, she's plusing your base. You gotta eat a mix, bro. You gotta eat a mix. And then you're probably gonna die. Boo-hoo. So now, every single time Elphelt hits you, she's able to go into that super mid-screen or in the corner, do a messed up mix, break the wall, get meter. Next time she hits you, she does it again, and it's just this constant loop of pressure. You have to interact with it almost every single time she touches you, and that's why this is number 4 on my list. However, the top 3 supers in the game just require no interaction. The other supers, right, like Asuka's bookmark, yeah, you needed to kind of have 50 meter and then put your opponent in block strength, and then you can kind of win more. Elphelt, yeah, you needed to hit them, and then you needed to friggin', you know, slap the belt on them and then run the mix, and theoretically they could block the mix. Yeah. These next supers that I'm going to be talking about requires no interaction from my opponent. You can't interact. Okay. You're not going to interact with me. I'm just going to enforce myself upon you. Okay. With that being said, let's move on to number 3. For the number 3 super in the game, we have my beautiful baby girl. Yes, that is right. Keeper of the Key. This move is absurd. It's incredible. It's really messed up. And yes, it technically took a little bit of a hit because of the YRC changes, but realistically, like, you're still cooked, brother. The fact that out of wall break, right? So this situation comes up a lot, right? We break the wall. Now we're both back to neutral. I have 50 meter. Oh, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fucking pop super. And now all of a sudden, you're back in my face. Hey, welcome to the corner. Anywhere on the screen. I just invented it, okay? And unlike Goldlewis, this is a corner that has you completely locked down, and she is so fast. She's gonna run up on you. She's gonna she's gonna do one of these. Run up on you. Now all of a sudden you gotta fucking block a mix, block an 18 frame overhead. You're cooked, brother. You're cooked. One of the things I've really been enjoying to do mid-screen is that as soon as I break the wall, right? You pop this, they're forced to block it, right? Do one of these, push them into the corner, and then once you do that, you're able to enforce a fuzzy mix. It's incredible. And then you break the wall again, right? You're probably gonna build meter because you were in positive, and all of a sudden, guess what? We're gonna do it again. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, right. Yes, sir, indeed. We're gonna do it again. It is absurd. Most of the time, if A.B.A and Jealousy Rage touches you, you're going to be seeing the super one way or another, and you are probably going to die. This super fixes a lot of A.B.A's issues. For example, if she's low on Jealousy Rage, she can always just pop the super and then just, you know, undo Jealousy, redo Jealousy, and then run back in their faces. Or even if your opponent knows how to beat the move, they are forced to try to beat the move. And usually beating this move has to come in the form of them like super jumping forward in order to avoid the tentacles. But if they super jump forward, they don't have any more air options except for freaking air dash. And therefore, I can just be like, okay, buddy, you want to freaking super jump forward? I'm gonna just meet you in the air, right? Like, or I could just BRC forward and react to the fact that they're in the air, and all of a sudden they're cooked. And so beating the move means having to do the most committal option known to mankind, and it is crazy because so many people don't know how to deal with this. It is even if you do know how to deal with this move, it is insane. You forced to interact with it. It's absurd. The more I talk about it, the more I think it could be higher on the list. But the next 2 supers are really, really good. And the biggest downside is that A.B.A actually needs to hit you. It's not necessarily something that she can earn her way into, although that's not true. Obviously, if she gets hit enough, she can build the meter and then run in anyway. But in certain matchups, it feels like it's almost a non-factor. It feels almost impossible to get. And if she doesn't have Jealousy at all, she is absolutely cooked. She has no way of using it. But overall, really good super. Number 3 on the list. Let's move on to our top 2. For our number 2 best super in the game. You guys have heard me talk about the super many times, saying, hey, this might be the best super in the freaking game. Unfortunately, it is tied to one of the not so greatest characters in the game. Yes, we are talking about Venom's Dark Angel. That's not Dark Angel. This move is cracked. This move is insane. This move is incredible. It is really good. There is honestly never a bad time to check out Dark Angel, because even if your opponent, right, if they get clipped by it at all, the follow-up's gonna happen. Even if they wanted to hit you, right? Even if they did hit you, as soon as the super flash comes out, right? Yeah, you're gonna get the hit, but it doesn't matter, buddy. It doesn't matter. Venom's gonna fucking hit you. Not only that, but he's gonna get a full combo, and thanks to all of his buffs, the combo is, it's not gonna do nothing. It's definitely not gonna do, it's gonna deal some damage. And then he's gonna break the wall, he's gonna have the meter, and then he's gonna be able to do it again. The only reason why this super is not number 1 is because the number 1 super in the game does kind of the same thing, but it's just tied to a better character. We're gonna get into that. But this super is absolutely insane. Off of a throw, you can just go into the move, right? You jump. You get a whole fucking mix. In fact, even if they block that, you get a second mix. It is really good. And even if you don't get a mix, you just push them all the way to the fucking corner, right? You can just chuck this out. Do one of these. Oh, hold on. What frick? Do one of these. Shoot some balls up in the air in the freaking sky to catch them jumping. You can jump up in the air, catch them jumping. All of a sudden they block it. You push it in the corner, and then it's your turn, and then you're good. You're Gucci. You know, you can start doing a lot of these things. You know what I'm saying? Hit them with one of these. You know what I mean? Hit them with one of these. Hit them with one of these. You know, the world's your oyster. Because Venom is a zoning style character, he does build meter relatively quickly, and so you're going to see the super a lot. There is never a bad time to use it, like ever. If you're able to use it, just do it. The only times that you would say are bad is if you're like point blank in your opponent's face and your opponent manages to have 50 meter, they can reversal super you, but just don't do it then, right? And then you're fine. Because of how the super works, right? As soon as you interact with it, it gives the explosion follow-up, so you can do very cheeky OTG stuff, make it so that they pop up, they're like, oh, I'm good, and then the freaking missile comes and shoots him in the face. It's really funny. I truly debated giving this the #1 move on the list, but again, the unfortunate thing is that it is tied to Venom, and the next move on the list is tied to a much better character. So without further ado, let's talk about my pick for the #1 best super in Guilty Gear Strive. Would this truly be a best list in the game if we didn't talk about Potemkin? No sirree, it wouldn't. You guys knew it would bring us here. You guys knew all paths lead back to Rome, and Rome is the shape of this ginormous black man. Yes, we are talking about Gigantor Kai. Now, I did allude to this before, but Gigantor Kai, the reason why it is so insane, so absurd, so stupid, is that it is everything that Dark Angel is, but it is tied to a better character, and it allows for some way more messed up things. For example, Potemkin can actually get a tick throw off of this move. I'm actually not too sure how to do it, but they definitely tried to do it to me. There it is. He can do things like going to overhead, going to another one, going to low and overhead. He can combo off of this move. I don't know the combo, but you guys see it. He can junk it out in neutral and move ahead of it, and if you hit him, you're fudged. If he has 100 meter, he can chuck this move out and threaten with this move, so you can't even chicken block it, which is so annoying. It also goes way higher than Dark Angel, so you have to like really super jump over it in order to not get it. And like, even if Potemkin doesn't have 50 meter, he can start hitting you with stuff like this. Oh, that's right. If he's at a certain point, he can just fucking fly and then be covered by the shield. It is insane. Every single match, every single game, you have to interact with this move. Potemkin is absurd. Obviously, it's tied to a more absurd character, which is why Dark Angel kind of loses points, because Venom himself is not even that crazy of a character, especially given the fact that even if you were to block this move, it doesn't matter. Potemkin's going to just freaking Garuda impact you, and then all of a sudden, you're still stuck in one of the most deadliest 50-50s this entire game has to offer. I don't want to beat a dead horse to death, although I kind of want to. This move is good. I think it is the best super in the game because it is tied to one of the best characters in the game. And every time he uses it, I clench my sphincter just a little bit tighter. And I can't clench it any tighter, bro. With all that delightful visualism out of the way, a super that wins neutral for you, a super that beats projectiles for you, a super that mixes for you, a super that confirms for you, a super that allows you to get higher damaging combos. What isn't there to love? What isn't there to love about Gigantor Kai? Unless you're on the receiving end, in which case, the messed up thing about Gigantor Kai is that you probably won't even see it every single round, although it does get pretty close, because Potemkin is still really good at using meter. Like, instead of doing Gigantor Kai, he could just do one of these, but you know, God forbid he has 100 meter, he can do one of these, and then combo off it. You guys get the point. It's the best super in the game. If you disagree with me, please let me know why in the comment section down below. What is your top 5 list? What have I missed? And let me tell you why you are wrong. But regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Once again, like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you don't. Don't dislike it if you don't. Just don't do anything. Just flood and leave, bro. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.